Hey, Foreclosure Fix family, and welcome to another episode of the Foreclosure Fix podcast, where our goal is to help 1 million homeowners successfully navigate foreclosure. Now, if that mission resonates with you, please do us a favor, like, subscribe, or share our content with someone who you know can benefit. Or better yet, check out a copy of our new book, The Foreclosure Fix, 12 Proven Steps to Beat the Bank, Escape Foreclosure, or Turn Your Property into a Profitable Asset. Y'all, my name is DJ Olojo, and I am the host of Foreclosure Fix podcast. And before we dive into our exciting topic today, I want to take a minute, and I want to do a couple things. If you're watching this on any platform, you may notice that I don't have my trademark bow tie tied. And the reason I don't have it tied right now is because I was actually kind of just a little bit offended. And I try to be unoffendable. And I try not to take what people say to me personally. But sometimes that's hard. And sometimes that's difficult. And a comment that I recently heard really hurt me. And that comment said, "Do you wear clip-on bow ties?" And for me, as a bow tie connoisseur, that hit me right here in the heart. You know, I was really offended by that. And so I'm not hating on anybody who wears clip-ons. I have worn a clip-on before. I was much younger, but I have worn them, and I don't hate on them. But I am an aficionado when it comes to bow ties. And today I just felt that it would be beneficial to just show the world that this is not a life I play around with. I actually live this life. This is me. The bow tie is me. And so for those of you all who are watching right now, just know that when I wake up in the morning and I get dressed, and I am going through helping homeowners day in and day out, the bow tie is part of it all. The bow tie is part of the Foreclosure Fix experience. The bow tie is what I do. It's how I live. And if I'm not working out, or I'm not in the shower, or doing manual labor, you will probably catch me in a bow tie, because this is the Foreclosure Fix podcast. And our goal is to help 1 million homeowners. And that includes you if you're listening to it. And so, y'all, don't ever ask me if the bow ties are clip-on or hand-tied, because the bow ties are always hand-tied. And you know that DJ Olojo is here to help you. And so with that, we're going to jump into our topic today, y'all. I just had to kind of segue because I want everybody to know that I love you guys, and I really appreciate all the comments that come in. And so my joke is that I don't take anything personally, because I don't. But yes, my bow ties are always hand tied. And so, y'all, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for asking all those questions you ask, whether it's via any of the social media channels or it's via our email at help@theforeclosurefix. Today, we are talking about title reports and why title reports are important to you if you're facing foreclosure. So title reports in general are important to any homeowner who is selling their property, but it's very important for you if you're facing foreclosure because of your financial situation or because of the foreclosure situation. You may not be aware of what other legal things impact your ability to sell the property, your ability to provide clear and marketable title to the next person, if that's what you want to do. You also don't know what things are brewing behind the scenes if you want to keep your property that may impact you in the future. And so title reports are so important if you are dealing with real estate and you are going to be part of a real estate transaction. And so I want to kind of break down the 3 top reasons why you need a title report if you are facing foreclosure. The first reason is it saves you time. The second reason is that it helps you determine the optimal strategy. The third reason is that it lowers your blood pressure. And I will talk through all that. I don't claim to be a doctor, but I'm pretty confident that a title report lowers your blood pressure when you are facing foreclosure. And I'm going to dive into the reasons as to why. So the first reason about a title report is that it saves you time. When you are dealing with any type of real estate transaction, it could be stressful. It can be scary. These are transactions where even if you have no issues or no problems and the transaction is a cash sale, it's very straightforward. It can still be stressful. And the reason why it can be stressful is because it is something that parties have agreed to, but has not taken place yet. And so until it happens, you are still nervous. You are still afraid. you just don't know what's going to happen. I have sold hundreds of houses in my career. And what I have learned is that you can never count your chickens before they hatch. And so when you are involved in a real estate transaction, whether you are the seller or you're the buyer, you don't know what level of commitment the other party has until you are sitting face to face from each other, signing the documents, or until you receive the email from the closing agent or the escrow party to say the deal has funded, the money has been received, all the documents are signed, the property is now transferred. And so this is a stressful transaction regardless of what is going on in the environment. You add on top of that foreclosure, you add on top of that mounting pressures from maybe bills or the death of a loved one. You mount on top of that just the day-to-day pressures of life. And this is a very stressful situation for many people. So the title report allows you to have a better understanding of everything that may be impacting your property from a legal perspective. And so what does a title report look like? What does it include? Typically, a title report has a couple of different things. It has the name of the owner of record on the property. It has the vesting information. It has any open mortgages or security deeds or liens or things like that that are impacting title. It will also show any active judgments. It will show any property taxes that may be due. It may even show water bills in some counties or states as well. And so it basically gives you a better understanding of what's going on with your property from a legal perspective. So if you are going to transfer that property to someone, you would know exactly what things need to be paid off or need to be satisfied or released from the property in order to provide clear and marketable title. So that's what a title report does. And the reason why it saves you time is that you know this at the front end of a process. So if a property is not in your name and it's in the name of deceased person, and you are now living in the property for whatever myriad of reasons that could be, but you're not on title, well, you know that you have to start the process to probate that estate in order to sell the property. And if you don't do that and you don't have enough time from a legal perspective, then you already know your options around foreclosure are going to be more limited than if you were on title and you were the one who was on record to be able to sell that property. It gives you a heads up because then you can start taking the steps early and not be blindsided later in the process. And so it's very, very important that you understand that a title report is not the end all be all, but it's a very good first step for you as you try to figure out the best way to navigate the foreclosure journey. And you may say, where do I get a title report from? How do I access one? Well, you can get one from the closing attorney who may be handling your file or the escrow company who's handling your file. Now, if you go to them and say, I don't know if I want to sell my house, I just want to get a title report, they may charge you upwards of $500 for them to pull a title report because they have to kind of review it, certify it, and things like that. But you can go online to companies like protitle.com or protitleiusa.com or baldwinassociates.com and order a title report for anywhere between $75 and $150 on their websites for most counties and states across the country. And so I would recommend you probably start there if you know for sure you're not going to sell your house. I always want to give you the most economical options to do this. And there are other providers out there who also provide this service. I just haven't used them, so I can't vouch for them and say that they are good providers. Okay. And so by going through this process, by going through and looking at the title, you get to a heads up on what you need to do in order to move forward. So that is the beauty of a title report. The next thing is that it helps you determine your optimal strategy. The reason why it helps you determine your optimal strategy is because you have a clearer picture of what you want to do. Sometimes we may want to save our house, but because of the way the title comes back, because of the number of liens, the number of judgments, or because of the way the property is titled in the county records, exactly whose name the property's in, it really may not be viable for us to keep our homes. And so if we know this 6 months out, 12 months out. It allows us to make a better decision on how we're going to move forward. We're not waiting until the last minute to say, oh, I have to move or I have to go find another house. We are making and taking decisive action early in the process. So it allows you to make a better decision. The last thing that it does is that it lowers your blood pressure. I have seen too many transactions come apart in the final seconds, come apart in the fourth quarter when everybody's rooting for the transaction to go through. And so I want to be the first to say, in those scenarios, everyone's blood pressure is raised because the agent who's working on the deal doesn't get paid unless the deal closes. The lenders who are working on the deal don't get paid unless the deal closes. The homeowner who wants to sell and the buyer who wants to buy don't get their optimal outcome unless the deal closes. And pretty much the only person who may get paid is the attorney. And that's because they've already done all the legal work. And so they still have to be paid. And so in scenarios like that, it is very, very important that you lower your blood pressure by making sure you know exactly what is on title. And so you may say, DJ, how does this look? Like, I understand this title report, but how will it help me if I'm facing foreclosure? Well, let me give you an example of a story I came in contact with just this week. All right. There is a homeowner out there who is going into foreclosure, and the property is in a suburb of Atlanta. This suburb is going to be called McDonough. All right. And this property is in the suburb of McDonough. It's going in foreclosure and things like that. The property was listed on the open market for a reasonable price. They weren't asking a price that was atrocious. They were asking exactly market value for the property. And the property has been listed, which tells me that this homeowner is doing everything possible to follow the steps that we've outlined in the book and profit from foreclosure. They're going to sell their property, move on down the road, and everything is going to be great. Here are the problems that this homeowner is facing because they don't have a clear title report. The first thing is that the house is not selling. And so there are always reasons for a house not to sell. Maybe it's overpriced. Maybe the condition of the property. Maybe it's not being marketed correctly by the agent. Regardless, they should have done a price drop much sooner than a couple weeks before the foreclosure sale. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when we look at the title of the property, yes, we look at the title for properties that we are considering buying. We found numerous things, right? One is that this homeowner thought they only had one loan with an outstanding balance of $170,000. Great. They're selling the property for north of $300,000. So they stand to make a considerable profit, which is great for them and which is what we want to see happen for homeowners. But there are multiple issues here. One is that not only did they have a mortgage for $170,000, they also had a second mortgage that was a sleeper mortgage that was for $40,000. And they had no clue that this mortgage was on title, right? And you may say, how come they had no clue? Well, more on that in a second. All right. So they had a second mortgage out there for $40,000. The next thing is that the property was not in the name of the occupants living in the property. So the person who was trying to sell it was not on title. How does that happen? How is someone living in a house where they're not on title? Well, unfortunately, in this scenario, the person who was on title, which was this lady's mother, passed away in 2020. And so when she passed away, she quit claimed the property to her daughter. And her daughter has been living in the property ever since. Not a problem. Straightforward. Somebody dies, they quit claim the deed to their daughter, and life goes on. Well, the issue happened is that the mother, when she was still alive, got a second mortgage from HUD. And that mortgage was basically a mortgage to help catch up the delinquent payments on the first mortgage. And that mortgage is a mortgage that says you don't have to make any payments on it, but this mortgage needs to be satisfied if the property is transferred or at the end of 30 years. And so that mortgage is a sleeper mortgage because you don't have to make any payments on it. It's not even accruing interest, but it's still on title. And so now she has a mortgage out there for $170 and a mortgage out there for $40,000. And so that is $210,000, but she's listed for over $300,000 and still stands to make a great profit. All right, let's go back to that title situation. There's also an HOA lien out there. Okay, we got another lien, and that lien was for about $4,000. Okay, not a big deal, $4,000. There's still enough meat on the bones for everybody to win. Well, we got a couple other issues that came up, and we found this all via title, y'all. Unfortunately, the quitclaim deed that this borrower did was missing some important information. When you do a quitclaim deed in the state of Georgia, the information needs to be correct. So not only does it need to have the property address and the parcel number, it also needs to have a legal description. And this quitclaim deed was missing both the parcel ID and the legal description, which does not make the deed invalid, but it makes it something that most title insurance companies will not provide insurable title on, which means that although this person was in the records from the county as someone who's on title, she could not transfer the property with clear and marketable title because of the fact that she couldn't provide insurable title. And so from that perspective, this property would need to be probated. And so that is a whole nother process in and of itself. And then it says, all right, what heirs are out there? So is it just her? Does she have any siblings? Who else? Did the mother have any other kids? Were there any extramarital things going on that provides so many cans of worms? And in this scenario, a simple title report would have helped this person because now they are on the brink of foreclosure. And I'm not sure what's going to happen to them, but this is what I want to help you avoid. I want to help you avoid situations where you're doing everything right. This homeowner did everything right. They got their property out there, marketed, listed. They let people know that the house was going to foreclosure and they needed a cash offer and they want to sell quickly. They were taking the phone calls. They were answering them. They were working with people. They were looking for offers and they were doing everything to profit from foreclosure. But they forgot one important critical step, and that's making sure that they had the ability to sell their property. And that's the reason why the title report is so important for homeowners who may be facing foreclosure, is because the last thing you want to do is do all that work that this lady has done. Take all those calls, deal with all those creditors, and get to the finish line and realize that you can't do what you intended to do. You can't do the thing that gets you out of the situation, that gets you out of the jam, which is to sell your property, but you're actually just stuck. And so that's why I want to make sure you all know, as listeners of this podcast, that if you're facing foreclosure and you want to sell your house or you want to keep your house, spend the $75 or $100 to get a title report and be able to see everything that's affecting your property condition. And that way you can make the best and most informed decision on what to do and how to do it and who to work with in order to get it done. Y'all, with that leads me to my favorite part of the podcast, which is our bow tie round. And in the bow tie round, you get to literally tie one on with your boy, DJ Olojo. And the B in bow tie round stands for my best advice for someone facing foreclosure. The O stands for one thing I'm grateful for. And the W stands for my wildest or most interesting foreclosure related story. All right. The B in bow tie round is simply get a title report. It is a small amount of money that will help you in a very difficult time and give you a better understanding of your situation. I can't emphasize this enough. It's so important that you understand not only the physical property condition, but the legal kind of property condition. And that way it helps you make the best decision for your foreclosure situation. Oh, the one thing I'm grateful for, I am grateful for this time of year. Y'all, we're going up where Easter is here and we got spring break and things like that. And regardless of what you're doing in this season, I love this time because I get to be around my family, whether it's taking the kids somewhere for vacation or spending time with family around the dinner table. It is just a time of year that I'm excited about. The weather is getting nicer and warmer and better. And although my allergies are tripping, I am still so grateful just to have, just beautiful weather, a beautiful time of year, and just to be alive. And so that is the one thing, which is probably a myriad of things I'm grateful for right now. My wildest or most interesting foreclosure related story is all about picking the right professionals, attorneys, people to help you when you're facing foreclosure. we are dealing with a situation right now where we are the lender in this scenario. And this person is facing foreclosure and they are kind of at the tail end. This is a state that is a judicial state, and the process could be very, very long. I'm talking about over 12 months in order to get to foreclosure. But we are on the tail end of that process, and it's probably only about 60 days left. And a borrower reached out to our attorneys and said, hey, I want to get a modification. And this is my attorney who was helping me on my side. So please communicate with that attorney. And so our attorney was happy to communicate with them and said, we'll love to give you modification options. We want to see you get this worked out. And, we are happy that you have good counsel on your end to help you. Unfortunately, this counsel has not been so good. We have sent multiple emails to the attorney on the other side. We have sent numerous different modification packages, and we have heard crickets. And so this person is paying for a legal professional to help them. And that legal professional is not responsive. They are not doing right by their client. And it hurts me as a lender to see this, because I assume that person got this legal professional in good faith, wanting to get a resolution. But that professional is either too busy or derelict in their duty and not providing a high level of service. And so when you are looking at service providers in any way, shape, or form, make sure you vet them, make sure they're there for your best interest, and make sure they will do what they say they're going to do. It is so important, especially when you're facing foreclosure. Y'all, this wraps another episode of the Foreclosure Fix podcast. If the mission to help 1 million homeowners resonates with you, do us a favor, like, subscribe, or share our content with someone who you know can benefit. It is so important that we get this message out there. And you sharing this, you sending this to someone who you know can need it, is the way in which we can do it. I appreciate y'all for listening. And as always, I love you and God bless you. I'll talk to you soon. The views and opinions on this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. If you have a specific legal question, we highly recommend you contact a qualified legal professional.